The world was burning. Thick smoke billowed across the rugged horizon of a devastated Afghan village, the air heavy with the acrid stench of gunpowder and scorched earth. Gunfire had faded into an eerie silence, broken only by the distant crackle of flames, devouring what little remained. Dr. Ethan Hale, a seasoned Navy SEAL medic at 35, moved through the rubble with the quiet precision of a man who'd stared death in the face too many times. His tanned skin glistened with sweat under his gear, his muscular frame tense, rifle slung low as his eyes scanned the shadows. He felt it a presence, not just the remnants of battle, but something alive, watchful, hidden among the ruins. Heart pounding with disciplined calm, Ethan crouched behind a shattered wall, his boots crunching on debris. Then he saw her. Sprawled against the jagged stones, her clothes torn and bloodied, a woman in her late 20s, day white with a faint flush of determination, her golden hair matted with dust. Her body was athletic curves, defined by strength, full bust, straining against her ripped shirt. Slim waist, leading to toned legs that spoke of endurance, not fragility. But it was her eyes that stopped him. Cold, sharp blue piercing like a hawk's, assessing him not with fear or desperation, but with unflinching clarity. No cries, no pleas, just silence. Absolute, unnerving silence. Ethan's medic instincts surged. He rushed to her side, gloved hands pressing against the gunshot wound in her flank, blood seeping warm between his fingers. "Hold on," he whispered, his voice steady despite the chaos. She didn't flinch, her breathing controlled deep inhales and slow exhales, as if pain were an old enemy she'd mastered long ago. As he tore fabric to expose the injury, a glimpse caught his eye on her back, partially revealed an intricate tattoo, a majestic eagle entwined with a coiled cobra numbers, 1776, etched beneath, symbolizing something profound, something secret. Who was she? A civilian caught in the crossfire, or something more? Why this silence in the midst of hell? Ethan's mind raced, stirring memories of forgotten wars, of unsung heroes and hidden truths. For older souls who'd lived through Vietnam's shadows, this moment echoed the quiet sacrifices that defined a generation. Women overlooked strengths, unseen. The injustice gnawed in a man's war. Could a woman like her hold secrets that could change everything? The air thickened with mystery, pulling you deeper into the unknown. In the dim light of the makeshift tent back at base, Dr. Ethan Hale wiped the blood from his hands, the metallic tang lingering in the air like a grim reminder of the day's toll. At 35, Ethan was no stranger to the brutal rhythm of war, his tanned skin weathered by the relentless sun of deployments from Iraq to Afghanistan, stretched over a muscular build, honed by years of rigorous training and unyielding duty. Broad shoulders that had carried wounded comrades through hellfire, strong arms that stitched lives back together under fire. Ethan was the rock his SEAL team leaned on. But beneath that steadfast exterior lay a wound that no suture could mend, the loss of his closest buddy in a dusty Iraqi ambush years ago. That day, he'd held his friend as life slipped away, vowing never to let another soul fade without a fight. Loyalty burned in him like an eternal flame, but it came with shadows, nights haunted by what-ifs, a quiet resolve to see the humanity in every casualty, no matter the chaos. The woman he'd just rescued lay still on the cot, her breathing steady despite the pain that must have screamed through her body. Sophia Reed, that name would come later, pieced together from fragments of truth. But in this moment, she was an enigma, her silence a wall Ethan couldn't yet breach. As he bandaged her wound, his mind drifted, wondering about the life that had led her here. Little did he know Sophia's world was one forged in secrecy and steel, far from the ordinary paths most women walked. Flash back to a hidden training ground in the misty hills of Virginia, years before this fateful encounter. Sophia, then in her early 20s, stood tall among a handful of recruits in the Phantom Wing program, a clandestine, off-the-books initiative buried deep within military shadows, designed to test if women could endure the same grueling standards as their male counterparts in special ops. Her daw-white skin glowed under the harsh floodlights, her golden hair tied back in a no-nonsense ponytail, framing a face of quiet determination. High cheekbones, those piercing blue eyes that missed nothing, and a figure that blended grace with power, full curves accentuating her athletic frame, muscles toned from endless drills. She wasn't just beautiful, she was formidable, her presence commanding respect, even as prejudice tried to erode it. "Women don't belong here," one trainer snarled during a brutal night march, his voice dripping with disdain as rain pounded the earth. The men around her chuckled, their eyes flicking her way with skepticism, as if her very existence challenged their world. Sophia felt the sting, the weight of generations of overlooked women pressing down. It reminded her of stories her grandparents told around the dinner table, tales from the Vietnam era when women served as nurses or in support roles, their contributions whispered rather than celebrated, their sacrifices buried in history books. For older Americans, like those who'd lived through that turbulent time, it was a familiar ache, the quiet heroism of Rosie, the Riveters, and battlefield angels rarely given the spotlight they deserved. Sophia carried that legacy in her blood, fueling her resilience. But it was her father's letters that anchored her through the torment. A Vietnam veteran himself, he'd vanished on a classified mission when she was just a girl, leaving behind a stack of faded envelopes filled with wisdom. "My dear Sophie." One read his handwriting steady despite the horrors he'd seen. "Remember, strength isn't in the shout, but in the silent stand. Like the eagle soaring above the storm, protected by the cobra's vigilance, that's you, kid. Fly high no matter the winds." She'd inked those words into her skin, the eagle and cobra tattoo on her back, entwined with 1776, a nod to America's founding spirit of freedom and defiance. It was her family oath, a talisman against the doubts. In Phantom Wing, as trainers pushed her to breaking rope climbs that tore her palms, icy swims that numbed her soul, sniper drills where precision meant survival, Sophia clung to it. "Hit the target or go home," a male instructor barked, smirking as if expecting her to fail. But she didn't. Her shots rang true, piercing bullseyes from impossible distances, her breath synced perfectly, her focus unyielding. Yet the prejudice lingered whispers in the barracks. "She's good, but can she hack it in the real fight?" It chipped at her building walls of silence, teaching her that words could betray, but actions endured. Back in the Afghan tent, Ethan watched her chest rise and fall, the tattoo peaking as he adjusted the bandage. He thought of his own losses, the comrades who'd fought without question. Little did he realize, this woman embodied the same unyielding spirit, her ordinary world, one of hidden battles against bias, her heart tethered to a father's vanished legacy. In a world quick to judge, her silence wasn't weakness, it was armor. And as the desert winds howled outside, the stage was set for truths to unfold, reminding us all that true strength often hides in the quiet corners of courage. As the first rays of dawn pierced the Afghan sky, painting the rubble in hues of gold and shadow, Ethan Hale's world shifted from the quiet introspection of the tent to the raw urgency of survival. The woman Sophia, though he didn't know her name yet, lay there, her piercing blue eyes flickering with an intelligence that belied her silence. Ethan couldn't shake the image of her tattoo, that eagle and cobra entwined like guardians of a forgotten promise. It stirred something deep in him, an echo of his own scars, both seen and unseen. But there was no time for reflection. The radio crackled with dire warnings. "Hostiles closing in!" His team leader barked through the static. "We're surrounded! Hold position!" The devastated village, once a cluster of humble homes, now a labyrinth of destruction, became their battleground. Ethan had found her amid the chaos, her athletic form crumpled against a bullet-riddled wall. Blood soaking her shirt a deep crimson, the wound in her side a jagged testament to the bullet's cruel path. Her golden hair clung to her sweat-dampened forehead, her white skin pale from blood loss, yet her full curved figure held a quiet power muscles taut beneath the pain. He knelt beside her, his strong hands working swiftly, applying pressure, stemming the flow, his medic's kit a lifeline in the madness. "I've got you," he murmured, his voice a steady anchor. But she offered no response, no gasp or plea, just that controlled breathing, inhale, deep, exhale, slow, a rhythm he'd seen only in trained operators pushing through agony. Sophia's mind, however, raced like a storm. Even as pain clawed at her, her senses honed by Phantom Wing's merciless drills, picked up the subtle cues, the faint crunch of boots on sand, the metallic click of weapons reloading, shadows shifting beyond the ruins. The SEAL team was indeed surrounded enemies circling like vultures, their numbers swelling under the cover of dawn. She felt the call, that inexorable pull to engage, to use her skills, not just to survive, but to protect. Her sniper's eye calculated distances. Her electronic warfare training whispered of jamming signals to disrupt their comms. But revealing herself meant shattering the veil over Phantom Wing, the program that had forged her in secrecy, demanding silence as its price. Exposure could unravel everything: her identity, the fragile progress for women in shadows, where men dominated. No, she thought, clenching her jaw, the Cobra must guard the Eagle in quiet vigilance. Yet the situation forced her hand, inch by inch. As gunfire erupted, anew bullets whizzing like angry hornets, Ethan lifted her carefully, her weight lighter than expected, but her body adjusting instinctively to aid him, shifting balance, easing his grip without a word. Odd, he noted, his suspicions igniting. This wasn't the limp surrender of a civilian. It was deliberate, trained. They dashed through the debris, his team providing cover fire, shouts echoing, "Doc, get her out!" But Sophia's blue eyes scanned the horizon, sensing the ambush, before it hit a flanking maneuver from the east, enemies creeping through the fog of war. Her heart pounded. The instinct to warn them burned, but silence held her tongue, a shield against betrayal. Ethan laid her in a shallow ditch for cover, his breath ragged as he checked her wound again. Blood seeped anew, but her face remained composed, those sharp features masking the turmoil within. "Who are you?" he whispered, more to himself than her. Her controlled breathing caught him. Inhale, hold, exhale, not panic, but mastery over pain, a technique drilled into elite forces. This isn't a civilian. He realized a chill running down his spine. In that moment, the adventure called louder, not just a rescue, but an unraveling mystery amid the gunfire. For Ethan, it echoed his vow, after losing his comrade, to fight for every life, to uncover truths hidden in the fray. And for Sophia, it was the precipice: engage and risk everything, or remain silent and watch potential allies fall. The team regrouped around them, faces grim under helmets, the encirclement tightening. Sophia's senses screamed enemies at 200 yards, closing fast. The call to adventure wasn't a choice. It was survival's demand, pulling her from the shadows of her ordinary world into the heart of the storm. Ethan's gaze met hers, a silent question hanging. Would she break her vow? The desert held its breath, the weight of unspoken legacies pressing down, reminding us of those quiet moments when fate whispers, Now's the time. The encirclement tightened, like a noose around the SEAL team, the Afghan dawn turning treacherous as enemy shadows danced on the periphery. Bullets zipped through the air, kicking up dust devils that choked the breath from their lungs. Ethan Hale crouched low, shielding the wounded woman, Sophia, with his body, his medic's hand still stained from her blood. Her side wound pulsed with fresh agony from the jostling escape, but she remained eerily composed, her blue eyes scanning the chaos with a precision that unnerved him. The tattoo on her back, glimpsed again as he adjusted her position, seemed almost alive in the flickering light, a symbol of defiance amid the storm. Ethan's mind whirled back to his own refusals in the past, those moments when doubt had nearly cost lives. But here, in this stranger, he sensed a deeper battle raging. Inside Sophia, a tempest brewed. The instinct to act surged through her like adrenaline, her phantom wing training screaming to intervene, to signal the team about the flanking enemies she'd sensed closing in from the ridges. She could visualize it, a quick hand gesture, a whispered warning turning the tide before more blood spilled. Her sniper skills could pick off threats from afar. Her electronic know-how could jam their radios, saving these men who unknowingly fought alongside a ghost from a hidden program. But exposure terrified her. Phantom Wing wasn't just training. It was a fragile experiment, buried to avoid the scandals of pushing women into elite shadows, where failure meant erasure. Revealing herself could unravel it all, endanger other women clawing for recognition, invite scrutiny that might label her a liability. Silence is your shield. Her father's letters had warned words etched into her soul alongside the eagle and cobra. The cobra protected secrets. The eagle soared in freedom. To speak now was to betray both. As the gunfire intensified, the team's suspicions boiled over. Sergeant Marcus Kane, a grizzled veteran with a perpetual scowl etched into his rugged face, hunkered down nearby, his rifle barking retorts into the haze. He glanced at Sophia, his eyes narrowing with disdain. "What the hell is she doing here, Doc? Women in this mess only cause trouble, distract us, slow us down." His words cut like shrapnel, laced with the old prejudices that echoed through military history. For older Americans, it stirred memories of Vietnam, where women like nurses or spies faced the same belittling brave souls, dismissed as fragile. Their contributions footnotes in tales of male heroism. Marcus spat into the sand, his voice rising over the din. "She's probably a spy playing weak to get inside our heads. Look at her, not a peep like she's got something to hide. We should leave her. She's dead weight." The outrage built in the air, a raw injustice that gnawed at the heart, reminding us how bias blinds even the bravest to true strength. Sophia felt the words pierce deeper than any bullet. Nearly giving up, she closed her eyes for a heartbeat, the temptation to abandon her resolve washing over her. Why fight for those who saw her as lesser? The program had already broken her, in ways unseen, endless nights of doubt, pushing through pain while men questioned her place. A flashback gripped her back in Virginia, a trainer shoving her face into the mud during a grueling crawl. "Quit, girl, this ain't for you." She'd risen then, mud-caked and defiant, but now wounded, and suspected the weight pressed harder. Her instinct to save these teammates clashed with the fear of ruin. Nearly, she let the silence swallow her whole, retreating into the shadows, where women like her had been forced to hide for generations. But Ethan wouldn't let it stand. Kneeling protectively, he fired back at Marcus while defending her. "Back off, Kane. She's wounded, not a threat. Look at her hands. Those scars aren't from farming." He traced the faint white lines on her palms, with his gaze, calluses thick from ropes and triggers, knuckles scarred from impacts that spoke of combat drills. "This is training, real training. She's no spy. She's something else." His voice carried the conviction of a man who'd lost too much to prejudice his own inner wound from that Iraqi loss, fueling his empathy. He thought of the unsung heroes he'd read about in old letters from his grandfather's Vietnam days, women who mended bodies and spirits without glory. Turning to Sophia, he whispered urgently, "Tell me something, anything. We need you." But she refused. Lips pressed tight, her blue eyes meeting his with a mix of gratitude and resolve. To speak was to risk it all. Silence was her last defense. The skirmish raged on the team holding by a thread, but Sophia's inner struggle peaked. Nearly giving up, she felt the pull to vanish into anonymity, to let the program remain buried. Yet as a teammate fell wounded nearby, her instinct flickered save them, or let bias win. The refusal hung heavy, a pivotal moment, where hearts teetered on the edge, echoing the quiet battles of those who've faced doubt and risen anyway. In the dust and din, the adventure beckoned, but Sophia's silence held firm for now. The skirmish subsided into a tense lull, the Afghan ridges echoing with the faint retreat of enemy footsteps, leaving the team battered, but breathing. Smoke hung heavy, mingling with the metallic scent of spent rounds, as Ethan Hale pulled Sophia into a makeshift cover behind a cluster of boulders. Her wound seeped anew, a stark reminder of her fragility amid the fury, yet her silence held like an unbreakable vow. Marcus Kane's words still rang in the air, his belittling sneer fueling the doubt that rippled through the squad. "She's trouble," he muttered again, wiping sweat from his brow, his suspicion a poison that threatened to fracture their unity. Ethan shot him a glare, his protective stance unwavering. In that moment, as bullets had whizzed and lives hung in balance, Ethan's defense had cracked open a door, turning him from mere rescuer to potential ally. Sophia, her blue eyes shadowed with pain, felt the shift, Ethan's words earlier. "This is training," had pierced her armor, stirring memories long buried. As the team caught their breath, her mind drifted back, a flashback, pulling her into the warmth of a different time, far from this desolate war zone. She was a girl of 10 standing in the rolling fields of her family's Virginia farm, the sun dipping low and casting golden hues over the land. Her father, a tall figure with calloused hands and a voice roughened by Vietnam's ghosts, knelt beside her, a rifle cradled gently in his arms. He wasn't just a veteran. He was her world, returned from the jungles, with stories whispered in the quiet hours, tales of comrades lost and resilience found. "Hold it steady, Sophie," he'd say, guiding her small hands on the stock, teaching her the art of the shot, not for sport, but for strength. Breathe in, hold exhale slow. Feel the wind, anticipate the drift. Girls can soar as high as eagles, you know. Don't let anyone clip your wings. Those afternoons were her first lessons in precision, the crack of the rifle echoing her father's pride. He'd show her how to calculate distance adjust for gravity, turn instinct into art. "The eagle sees all from above," he'd explain, tracing the outline of a majestic bird in the dirt. "But it needs the cobra's cunning to survive the ground." Together, they'd dream up the tattoo she'd one day ink, a symbol of his wisdom, the eagle for vision and freedom, the cobra for protection and strike, entwined with 1776 to honor the unyielding spirit of their nation's birth. But Vietnam had left him scarred, not just in body, but in soul. He'd vanish on a shadowy mission when she was 12, leaving only letters and that enduring mantra. In Phantom Wing, those words had carried her through the brutality male trainers, mocking her aim, doubting her endurance. But now, in this Afghan crucible, they whispered again. Soar, protect, endure. Ethan, sensing her distant gaze, crouched closer, his muscular frame a barrier against the wind. "You're not alone in this," he said softly, his voice carrying the weight of his own losses. He shared then, opening his heart in the quiet between storms. "I lost a brother in Iraq, best friend really. We were pinned down much like this. He took a hit covering me. I stitched him up, but it wasn't enough." His eyes, hardened by years, softened with memory, evoking the compassion of those who'd known wars, toll the seniors, who'd sent sons to Vietnam, praying for their return. That day taught me strength isn't in the uniform or the gender. It's in the fight you choose. Strength doesn't discriminate by gender. I've seen women in support roles save more lives than any operator. Whatever you're hiding, it's not weakness. His words bridged the gap, adding depth to the quiet feminism she'd embodied. Sophia's resolve wavered. Ethan's allyship born of shared grief felt like her father's echo, a mentor from the past, guiding her through this trusted teammate. She didn't speak, but her hand brushed his in a subtle acknowledgement, the scars on her palms telling tales he now understood. Marcus grumbled from afar, but the seed of trust took root. In that alliance, freshness bloomed not just a rescuer, but a bridge to her heritage, reminding her that silence could yield to connection without full betrayal. As the team prepared to move, Sophia felt the mentor's voice, her father's, merge with Ethan's support. "Girls can soar," the memory urged. Nearly giving up had passed. Now, with an ally at her side, the adventure pulled her forward. For those who've walked life's long roads, it was a poignant reminder: mentors live on in memories, allies in unexpected bonds, turning refusal into reluctant steps toward destiny. With the lull in gunfire came a fragile window for escape, the team shouldering their gear and pressing onward through the unforgiving Afghan desert. Ethan Hale led the way with Sophia in tow, her arm draped over his shoulder for support, though she bore her weight with surprising grit. The alliance forged in that brief exchange, his words of shared strength echoing her father's wisdom, gave her a quiet resolve to step forward, even if silence still bound her tongue. The sun climbed higher, turning the sands into a shimmering furnace. Dust storms, whipping up blinding veils that stung their eyes and clogged their throats. Wind howled like a mournful ghost, carrying the distant rumble of threats, yet unseen. Sophia, her wound a constant throb, adjusted her posture, subtly, shoulders squared, core engaged to minimize the pain, a technique drilled into her during Phantom Wing's endless trials. It was SEAL discipline at its core. Mind over matter, breath as anchor, body as weapon. She didn't speak, but her hand signals, fingers flicking in precise codes, guided the team around potential hazards, avoiding loose rocks that could betray their position or trigger hidden mines. Ethan noticed first, his keen medic's eye catching the fluidity of her movements. That's no civilian instinct, he thought, a spark of admiration mixing with curiosity. As they crested a dune, the radio crackled with enemy chatter voices in Pashto plotting their ambush. Sophia's blue eyes narrowed. Without a word, she reached for Ethan's comm device, her scarred fingers dancing over the controls. In moments, she hacked in, disrupting their signals, with a burst of static, turning their coordination to confusion. Ethan stared, his breath catching. "How?" he whispered, realizing her electronic skills went beyond survival hacks. It was elite training, the kind that saved lives in shadows. The team pushed on, unaware of her quiet intervention, but Ethan felt the threshold cross a step into the real challenge, where her secrets began to bleed into their fight. For older hearts, familiar with war's unseen heroes, it evoked the quiet ingenuity of those Vietnam codebreakers and nurses, turning peril into possibility through sheer will. The journey deepened into suspicion as the desert stretched endlessly, the team's fatigue breeding doubt like weeds in cracked earth. Huddled in a shallow wadi for a brief respite, arguments flared under the relentless sun. Marcus Kane, his face etched with lines from too many tours, pointed accusingly at Sophia. "She's a traitor, I tell you, hacking our gear. Who knows what she's signaling to them?" His voice boomed, laced with the old prejudices that refused to die, stirring outrage in the soul. "Women like her don't belong in the thick of it. They bring bad luck distractions." The squad murmured agreement, eyes flicking her way with wariness, the bias a heavy chain linking back to Eris. When women were sidelined, their valor dismissed. Sophia's inner struggle intensified a storm, raging beneath her calm facade. Nearly revealing her truth, she felt the words bubble up phantom wing, her skills, her oath, but fear clamped them down. The Cobra must protect, her father's voice echoed, but saving these men tugged at her instinct. A flashback seized her back in the phantom wing compound. Rain-lashed nights pushing her to limits. Trainers, all men circled like predators. Again, one barked as she collapsed in the mud ropes, burning her palms, lungs screaming from icy plunges. "You think you can hack it? Women break here." Pushed to the edge, starvation drills, simulated interrogations. She'd nearly quit, tears mixing with rain. But her father's letters tucked in her gear pulled her back. "Overcome adversity, Sophie. Life's battles build the unbreakable." It educated her in resilience mindset over muscle-turning pain into power skills like hacking and sniping. Not just tools, but lifelines. Emerging stronger, she'd proven them wrong, but the scars lingered, teaching that revelation invited destruction. Now, in this wadi, Marcus's accusations echoed those trainers, nearly breaking her silence. She adjusted her posture again, breathing through the pain her athletic form, a testament to endurance. Ethan stepped in, his voice firm. "Enough, Kane. She's saved us already. That hack bought us time." But the suspicion hung thick. Sophia's struggle peaking reveal, and risk the program, or remain silent and let doubt fester. For those who've weathered life's storms, it mirrored the inner wars of Vietnam. Vets, doubts, unspoken strengths, unacknowledged, pushing toward a breaking point where truth demanded to emerge. The tension crested as they neared camp, the desert's edge, a hazy promise of safety. A fallen knife from a teammate's kit glinted in the sand, and Sophia, in a moment of quiet defiance, picked it up. Her grip was expert thumb along the spine wrist, angled for strike or defense, not the clumsy hold of a novice, but the poise of a warrior. She rotated it fluidly, demonstrating without threat, her blue eyes meeting Ethan's in challenge. He froze, the realization hitting like a cold wave. This was military precision honed in shadows. But the twist misdirected Ethan's mind, leaped to dark possibilities. Russian spy. He whispered heart-racing memories of Cold War tales from his elders, fueling the doubt. Phantom Wing's secrecy played tricks. Her skills screamed operative, but from which side Sophia set the knife down her silence, a veil nearly cracking under the weight. The threshold crossed irrevocably into the battlefield's real challenge, where her alliance with Ethan would be tested, secrets unraveling amid the sands. It was a pivotal step, echoing the leaps of faith in old war stories, where trust bloomed from suspicion. The camp loomed like a fragile oasis as the team stumbled in the desert's grip, finally loosening under the weight of exhaustion. But safety was an illusion. No sooner had they fortified their positions than the first test struck, a small ambush from the ridges, enemies probing their defenses with sporadic fire. Bullets cracked the air, sending sand erupting in plumes, the team scrambling to return fire. Ethan Hale barked orders, his muscular frame a steady presence amid the panic, but his eyes darted to Sophia, propped against a crate, her wound bandaged, but her spirit unbroken. The alliance he'd forged with her, built on shared memories and quiet trust, now faced its baptism. Sophia felt the pull her phantom wing instincts igniting. From her vantage, she spotted the assailants, 3 figures creeping along a distant dune, 800 yards out, silhouettes against the fading light. Her blue eyes narrowed, calculating. She couldn't stay silent forever. The Cobra had to strike. Grabbing a nearby sniper rifle from a fallen pack, its weight familiar, like an old friend, she positioned herself low, adjusting for the pain that shot through her side. Synchronized breathing. Inhale deep. Hold for the heartbeat's rhythm. Exhale, slow to steady the scope. Wind calculation came next. A gentle cross breeze from the west, 3 knots, requiring a slight hold-off to the left. It was education in motion, the art of the long shot teaching patience and precision skills that turned vulnerability into victory. For older audiences, it echoed the sharpshooters of Vietnam, where a single bullet could shift fates, inspiring tales of overcoming impossible odds. Her finger squeezed the trigger crack, and the first enemy dropped clean through the chest. 2 more shots followed, each a testament to her training enemies, crumpling before they could advance. The team paused, stunned, as the ambush fizzled. But opposition surged. "What the hell?" Marcus Kane roared, storming over. "She's dangerous, grabbing our weapons. This proves it. She's no victim." His face twisted with prejudice, the kind that dismissed women as intruders, in a man's domain, stirring deep outrage in the heart reminders of generations where such bias silenced heroes. Ethan stepped forward, his voice cutting through. "She just saved our skins, Kane. That's not danger. That's skill." He thought of his lost comrade, how prejudice had once blinded him too. But now, seeing Sophia's steady hands and scarred resolve, he supported her fully. The initial challenge passed, prejudices cracked, but not broken, inspiring a quiet rebellion against old ways. In the uneasy quiet following the ambush, the team gathered around a flickering lantern, tensions simmering like the desert heat that refused to fade. Sophia sat apart, her athletic form slumped slightly against the tent wall, golden hair framing a face etched with quiet determination. The sniper shots had crossed a line, revealing glimpses of her truth, but the multi-layered conflict tore at her inwardly, the struggle to reveal more secrets. Waged war expose Phantom Wing fully and risk its downfall, or hold back and let suspicion fester. Externally, enemies lurked, their electronic attacks, jamming comms sporadically, a digital assault that demanded her skills. And internally, Marcus's opposition loomed, his glares a constant reminder of the barriers women faced. Ethan, sensing her isolation, approached with a canteen offering water as a bridge. "You didn't have to do that," he said softly, "but I'm glad you did." His words opened the floodgate. He shared more, pulling faded letters from his pocket missives, from his own family yellowed by time. "My grandfather wrote these from Vietnam." He confided, voice thick with emotion. He spoke of the nurses, the unsung women who held the line when men faltered. Strength in the shadows, he called it. It created a humanism that touched the heart, evoking compassion for those quiet bonds that transcend war's brutality. Sophia's barrier softened. A flashback enveloped her, pulling her back to the farm where her father's teachings took root. Her mother had died early, taken by illness, when Sophia was 5, leaving a void filled by her dad's steadfast presence. "The Cobra protects the eagle," he'd say during those sniper lessons, his voice gravelly from jungle scars. "You watch over what's precious, strike when needed, but always in silence." The tattoo was born from that eagle for her soaring spirit, Cobra for his protective wisdom, 1796, a nod to enduring freedom. He'd vanish soon after, lost to shadows like so many vets, but his mantra lived on, guiding her through Phantom Wing's trials. Now, as electronic pings signaled another enemy probe hack attempts on their systems, Sophia's inner turmoil peaked. Marcus snarled, "See, she's probably calling them in," but Ethan countered, "Or stopping them." Sharing the letters humanized him, building alliance. Sophia nodded subtly, her first overt acknowledgement, the Cobra yielding to trust. The conflict layered deeper, inspiring reflections on family legacies that fuel us through adversity. The night deepened into a gauntlet of dangers, the camp a besieged fortress as enemies escalated their assault. A series of challenges unfolded, first a feint attack drawing fire, then the real threat, electronic warfare drones, humming overhead systems, flickering as hacks infiltrated their defenses. Sophia, her wound, a fiery protest, knew she had to act. From her spot, she commandeered a laptop, fingers flying over keys in a bid to counter-hack, disrupting the drone signals. But the initial attempt failed, enemy firewalls too robust. Her energy waning from blood loss, she nearly collapsed, vision blurring, the pain overwhelming as systems went dark, leaving the team vulnerable. Drawing on her father's memory, the Cobra rises when the Eagle falters. She pushed through, recalibrating, with a secondary breach, fingers scarred, but steady. Success came in a burst, drones spiraling down, comms restored, but at a cost. She slumped, gasping, her secret skills laid bare. The team had watched Marcus crossing his arms. Let her handle it alone, he'd sneered earlier, temporarily abandoning her to the task, his prejudice blinding him to her sacrifice. Women crack under this. As she nearly gushed, Ethan rushed to her side, but the mini-climax erupted when the team realized the abandonment. She did it alone, one whispered outrage, building as they saw her pale face, blood seeping afresh. Marcus's callousness hit home. Teammates turned on him. "You left her to fight our battle." Another roared, the injustice raw, echoing the overlooked valor of women in past wars. Sophia rose shakily, using the memory of her father's lessons to stand tall, the Cobra striking back through will alone. The enemies pressed harder, ground assaults following, the digital failure bullets raining as Sophia, from her weakened state, directed with hand signals, her inner struggle resolved in action. Ethan's support rallied others. Even Marcus faltered, the outrage shifting alliances. For hearts touched by history, it inspired overcoming enemies, within and without, legacies of family fueling the fight. The desert night cloaked the team in shadows. As they pressed toward the enemy cave, a jagged maw carved into the rugged cliffs, harboring dangers that whispered of final reckonings. The air grew cooler, laden with the scent of dry earth and impending storm, the stars above a silent witness to their advance. Ethan Hale led the formation, his steady gait a beacon for the squad, but his thoughts lingered on Sophia, walking beside him with a determination that masked her growing frailty. The alliance they'd built, forged in shared memories and quiet trust, now propelled them into this heart of darkness, where tests would give way to the ultimate trial. Marcus's suspicions had quieted to grumbles, but the prejudices lingered, an undercurrent that tested their unity. Sophia scanned the terrain electronically, her device humming softly in her hands, a portable jammer and scanner from the team's kit, her Phantom Wing expertise turning it into a lifeline. She detected traps ahead, infrared sensors buried in the sand, tripwires glinting faintly under moonlight. "And signals," Ethan whispered, relaying her cues, fists clenched for halt, fingers splayed for spread out, educating the team in real time on modern warfare's subtlety. Drones were deployed next, small quadcopters buzzing low, their cameras feeding intel back to her screen. Enemy patrols, circling the cave entrance, heat signatures blooming like ominous flowers. It was a dance of technology and tactic, where hand signals bridged the gap between human instinct and machine precision, a far cry from the brute force of older wars. For seniors who'd seen Vietnam's jungles, it evoked evolution from radios, crackling with static, to silent drones, piercing the veil, inspiring awe at how innovation honors the enduring human spirit. But as they approached closer, Sophia's wound reopened a sharp stab that buckled her knees. Blood warmed her side, seeping through the bandage, her posture faltering despite the disciplined adjustments. She nearly collapsed, vision spotting black, the pain a relentless foe. Ethan caught her arm, his touch steady. "Easy." He urged, his voice a thread of support amid the peril. The preparation intensified, drones, mapping entry points, signals coordinating flanks. But Sophia's near fall hung heavy, a harbinger of barriers yet to come. The cave loomed its depths, calling them to confront not just enemies, but the inner caves of doubt and endurance. As the team hunkered down in a concealed ravine, final preparations unfolding under the veil of night, Sophia's mind retreated inward. The approaching cave, a mirror to her own buried struggles. The electronic scans complete, drones tucked away. She leaned against a rock, her blue eyes distant, the eagle and cobra tattoo, a hidden talisman pulsing with memory. Ethan's encouragement lingered, but the prejudices she'd faced resurfaced, harsh barriers that threatened to crumble her resolve. A flashback gripped her, pulling her back to the Phantom Wing facility, a fortress of steel and sweat, where dreams clashed with disdain. Rain hammered the training grounds, turning earth to muck as male trainers circled like wolves. "Push harder!" One bellowed, his face twisted in mockery, shoving her toward the obstacle course. Ropes slick with water, walls scaled under fire hoses simulating enemy barrages. "Women are weak," another sneered, his words a whip cracking through the downpour. "You'll break just like the others." Pushed to death's edge, endless runs, until legs gave out, submersion drills, where breath became a luxury. She'd gasped for air, body screaming, mind fracturing under the bias. It wasn't just physical, it was the soul-crushing doubt sown by men who saw her gender as a flaw, echoing the sidelined women of Vietnam eras, nurses patching wounds while glory went elsewhere. For elderly female audiences, it stirred outrage, the quiet fury of overlooked strength, generations where weak was a label slapped on the resilient. Her father's voice cut through the memory. The cobra protects the eagle. Sophie struck back with silence, but in those moments, nearly broken, she'd clawed forward, sniper drills in the storm, honing her to precision. The trainer's prejudice fueled her fire, turning barriers into forge weakness. No, it was their blindness. Emerging soaked but unbowed, she'd proven them wrong, but the scars etched deep inner walls that now in this Afghan ravine threatened to hold her back. The cave ahead symbolized it all. External foes paled against these internal chains, prejudices that whispered surrender. Ethan noticed her pallor, kneeling close. "We're in this together," he said, his alliance a light piercing her barriers. The preparation complete, the team moved, but Sophia's inner turmoil lingered, a battle within the battle. The preliminary battle erupted as they breached the cave's outer perimeter, enemies swarming from hidden alcoves like shadows come alive. Gunfire stitched the night flashes, illuminating the chaos, bullets ricocheting off rocks, shouts blending with the acrid burn of cordite. The team advanced in formation, hand signals, flashing drones providing overhead eyes, but the fight turned brutal. Close quarters mayhem, where tactics met raw survival. Sophia, positioned on a ledge, unleashed her skills, hacking a nearby enemy relay to disrupt their reinforcements, her fingers a blur despite the reopened wound. But as she fired a covering shot, sniper precision dropping a foe, shrapnel grazed her arm, injuring her further. Pain exploded, a white-hot lance through her body, blood flowing freely now. She silently endured breath, ragged but controlled posture, crumbling as she slumped against the wall. Nearly collapsing, her vision tunneled the weight of barriers, physical and inner, overwhelming. The prejudices echoed. Women are weak, a taunt from past and present, Marcus's earlier abandonment, a fresh wound. Ethan fought through to her side, his face smeared with grime, eyes fierce with concern. "Hold on, Sophia," he urged, using her name for the first time, gleaned from a whispered clue in her delirium. He shared memories swiftly, voice low amid the din. "My grandfather in Vietnam, he saw women like you enduring hell without complaint. They saved him once silent heroes. You're that strength." His words, laced with compassion, touched her core, evoking shared legacies that bound them. The encouragement reignited her fire. Drawing on her father's mantra, she rose shakily, firing another shot that cleared a path. The team pressed on, but Sophia's near collapse hung as a pivotal shadow the cave's depths, beckoning with harsher trials. For hearts weathered by time, it was a testament. Endurance blooms from encouragement barriers, breached by bonds that honor the past. The cave's mouth swallowed them whole, plunging the team into a labyrinth of darkness and dread, where the air thickened with the stench of damp stone and gun oil. Enemies attacked in full force, a torrent of shadows erupting from hidden crevices, their rifles blazing like furious stars in the void. Gunshots echoed through the tunnels, a deafening symphony that rattled bones and souls, blood flowing in grim rivulets across the uneven floor as teammates fell wounded or worse. The drama unfolded in chaos, screams piercing the din bodies, colliding in desperate grapples, the metallic tang of blood mingling with sweat and fear. It was a moment of life and death, where team spirit shone brightest men covering each other, instincts honed by brotherhood, pulling them through the inferno, educating on the unbreakable bond that turned strangers into saviors. Sophia, her wound, a searing fire, refused to yield. Drawing on the alliance with Ethan, she led with signals, sharp hand gestures, slicing the air fist, for hold wave for advance, her blue eyes commanding obedience even in silence. The cobra stirred within her, protecting the eagle's flight. As enemies swarmed a narrow choke point, she positioned herself on a ledge, sniper rifle steady despite the pain. Synchronized breath, wind negligible in the cave's still air, she fired the crack, resounding as a foe dropped, buying precious seconds. Ethan, pinned down by crossfire, felt a bullet whiz past his ear. Sophia's next shot saved him, sniping the assailant from afar, her precision a lifeline in the storm. But the twist unraveled like a venomous thread. Amid the frenzy, Sophia's electronic scanner picked up anomalous signals, not from the enemy, but from within. Marcus Kane, the ever-suspicious sergeant, fumbled with his comms, his actions misaligned with the team's. A quick hack into his device revealed the truth. He was the insider feeding intel to the foes, his prejudices masking a deeper betrayal. The misdirection stung. All along, suspicion had fallen on Sophia, her gender and silence painting her as the threat, while Marcus's gruff loyalty hid his treachery. "Traitor," Ethan roared, tackling him as the team turned, outrage fueling their fight. Gunshots echoed anew, blood flowing from fresh wounds, but the revelation educated on true team spirit, trust, earned through actions, not appearances, shattering biases in the heat of battle. Sophia's signals rallied them, her snipes, clearing paths, turning the tide even as pain threatened to consume her. For hearts that remember Vietnam's betrayals and bonds, it was a poignant lesson in life's crucibles. True allies emerge from the fire. Deeper into the cave's bowels, the battle raged on enemies, regrouping with ferocious tenacity, their numbers swelling from hidden reinforcements. Sophia's mettle faced its sternest test. With Marcus subdued and bound, the team's eyes turned to her suspicion, lingering like smoke. But she proved herself in the crucible, hacking the enemy system, amid the melee fingers, dancing over a captured device, breaching firewalls, with phantom wings' cunning codes. Alarms blared in her mind. The electronic warfare, a silent storm disrupting their comms, turning their own drones against them, a symphony of digital disruption that bought the team. Breathing room. As she worked, a stray bullet grazed her shoulder, tearing her shirt and revealing the tattoo, the eagle and cobra entwined, 1776, bold beneath. The teammates froze lanterns casting flickering light on the intricate ink, a symbol of unyielding spirit. She's Seal. One gasped realization dawning like dawn over the desert. The major surprise hit like a thunderclap. All this time, the woman they'd belittled, suspected as spy or weak link, bore the marks of elite training, her scars and skills screaming truth. Overcoming prejudices in that instant, their biases crumbled. Marcus's betrayal, fresh. Sophia's actions a stark contrast. She's one of us, Ethan declared, his voice thick with awe. The alliance solidified. Her hack saved the whole team drones crashing into enemy lines. Comms chaos, sowing panic among foes. Inspiration bloomed in a world quick to judge by gender. Her mettle proved that strength flows from the heart, not the form. For elderly souls who've witnessed eras of change, it touched deep women, rising against odds, like those in Vietnam who defied norms, their quiet valor reshaping history. Sophia's shirt hung in tatters, tattoo a badge of honor, her actions a beacon that rallied the squad. Blood flowed from her wounds, but she stood proving that prejudices fall when metal shines, saving not just lives, but the spirit of unity. The climax peaked in the cave's deepest chamber, enemies cornered, but desperate, unleashing a final barrage that shook the walls like thunder. Rocks crumbled, dust choking the air as the team fought, tooth and nail blood pooling in shadows, the scent of desperation thick. Sophia, wounds compounding, side throbbing, shoulder gashed, felt the world narrow to this moment of reckoning. Her father's voice echoed, "Protect the eagle." The mantra, a lifeline, as she led the charge signals directing flanks, snipes, dropping threats. In the heart of the frenzy, surrounded by foes, she hacked their central command, fingers slick with blood, but unerring. Success flickered systems down, enemies disoriented, and in that triumph, her silence shattered. "Protect the eagle," she spoke her first words, rough but resonant, the symbol alive in her voice. The team froze, a new emotional satisfaction washing over them like a balm. The enigmatic woman once suspected, now their savior, her words a bridge to her soul. Ethan met her eyes, tears mixing with grime, the alliance complete. "You did it," he whispered the phrase, echoing her father's pride. The peak moment created waves of fulfillment, overcoming silence and prejudice, her voice, a testament to resilience. For older hearts, it evoked profound compassion, the unsung voices of past wars, finally heard, creating bonds that heal. Enemies felt the cave secured, but Sophia's words lingered, a emotional pinnacle where metal proved hearts touched and legacies honored. The cave's echoes faded into a stunned silence, the acrid smoke of gunfire lingering like a veil over the fallen foes. The team stood amid the wreckage, breaths ragged bodies aching but alive victoriously so. Enemies lay scattered their assault, broken by Sophia's unyielding mettle, her first words, "Protect the eagle," still resonating like a clarion call. The symbol had ignited something profound, shattering the final barriers of doubt. Ethan Hale, his face streaked with grime and relief, turned to her first, his eyes wide with a mix of awe and gratitude. The alliance they'd forged, tested in fire, now bloomed into full recognition. One by one, the teammates acknowledged her. You led us through that hell." One stammered, a young operator, whose life she'd saved with a precise snipe. Another clapped her shoulder gently, mindful of her wounds. "We were wrong, dead wrong." Even those who'd echoed Marcus's prejudices stepped forward. Faces humbled. Marcus himself, bound and disarmed, glared from the corner where Ethan had subdued him, his betrayal laid bare. "Arrest him." Ethan ordered, his voice steady, as teammates secured the traitor, radioing base for extraction. The insider's fall gained them a crucial battlefield advantage. Captured intel from his device, revealed enemy positions, supply lines disrupted by Sophia's hacks, turning the tide, not just in the cave, but across the sector. It was a hard-won prize, the sword seized from the dragon's lair, educating on how truth and unity prevail over deceit. For Sophia, the acknowledgement was bittersweet, a balm on wounds, both seen and unseen. Her white skin pale from blood loss, golden hair disheveled, she leaned against the cave wall, her athletic form a testament to endurance. The team gathered around their respect, a quiet ovation reminiscent of those Vietnam homecomings, where unsung heroes finally received their due, late but heartfelt. It touched the compassion in older hearts, evoking memories of overlooked valor, where recognition healed as much as time. In that vulnerable moment, Sophia's personal victory unfolded. She briefly shared her voice, hoarse, but clear as veil, lifting just enough. "Phantom Wing," she whispered, eyes meeting Ethan's. "A program, hidden for women like me. Pushed beyond limits to prove we belong." The words spilled sparingly tales of grueling drills, prejudices endured, her father's legacy woven in. "He taught me to protect, to soar. That's why the silence. To guard it all." It was a revelation, not full confession, but enough to humanize her, inspiring the team with the depth of her sacrifice. Overcoming the inner barriers that had nearly broken her, she stood taller, the cobra and eagle alive in her spirit. Ethan moved beyond words, stepped close. "You've given us more than victory, you've shown us truth." He hugged her, then a symbol of camaraderie, his strong arms enveloping her, carefully mindful of her injuries. It was a brotherly embrace, pure and profound, sealing their bond amid the ruins. The team watched, hearts swelling. Marcus's arrest faded into the background as this moment shone. For Sophia, it was triumph, personal, poignant, her silence yielding to trust, prejudices vanquished by actions. The advantage gained extended beyond the field, a shift in souls, where a woman's strength redefined heroism. As base responded over the radio, promising reinforcements, the team savored the reward. Sophia's brief sharing lingered, a seed of change, reminding all of legacies passed down, like letters from fathers, tattoos etched in memory. Victory wasn't just survival. It was recognition, the sword of truth seized, forging paths for those who follow. In the quiet after the storm, hearts touched by such stories found solace, knowing that even in shadows, light emerges through courage and connection. The cave's oppressive darkness gave way to the vast Afghan night as the team emerged, battered victors carrying the weight of their triumph. Enemies lay defeated, Marcus bound and silent under guard. His betrayal, a shadow now eclipsed by Sophia's radiant metal. The air felt lighter, stars piercing the sky like hopeful beacons. But the journey back to camp stretched before them, a treacherous path through dunes and ravines, where safety was no guarantee. Ethan Hale walked beside Sophia, his arm a steady support, the hug from moments ago lingering as a symbol of unbreakable camaraderie. Her wounds bandaged anew, blood staunched, but pain persistent. She moved with quiet grace, her athletic form a testament to resilience. The team once fractured by prejudice now moved as one, their acknowledgement of her, a quiet hum of respect, echoing in shared glances and nods. Yet the road back held unexpected challenges, the desert unwilling to release them without a final test. As they traversed a narrow valley, the small twist unfolded distant engines, roared enemies pursuing in a desperate counterstrike, their vehicles kicking up dust clouds under the moonlight. "They're on our tail," a teammate shouted, panic rippling through the group. Headlights pierced the gloom bullets, whining past like angry wasps, the pursuers closing fast. Sophia's instincts flared. She halted, signaling the team to take cover behind boulders. "I'll block the rear," she whispered to Ethan, her voice steady despite the inner turmoil brewing. Grabbing the sniper rifle slung across her back, she climbed a slight rise, positioning herself with the precision of phantom wing drills. Prone, breath-synced scope aligned. Enemies crested the ridge, 3 vehicles, strong guns blazing. Sophia calculated 600 yards, crosswind minimal. She adjusted in hail holding as she fired. Crack, the lead driver's tire exploded, vehicle swerving into chaos. Another shot felled a gunner, her skills blocking the rear with lethal efficiency. The team returned fire from cover, but it was her snipes that turned the tied vehicles retreating in disarray, their pursuit thwarted. For Ethan, watching her, it was awe-inspiring, the woman he'd defended, now their guardian, her actions a bridge from silence to salvation. The small twist resolved, but it underscored the road's perils, reminding older hearts of Vietnam treks homeward, where victory's afterglow met lingering threats testing the spirit anew. Amid the adrenaline's fade, Sophia's inner challenge deepened a storm, raging beneath her calm exterior. The program's secret phantom wings' hidden existence weighed like an anchor. Revealing it fully could honor her medal gain. Official recognition perhaps inspire change for women in shadows. But exposure risked dismantling it all, the fragile progress, the lives of other recruits, the sanctity of her father's legacy. Protect the eagle. His words haunted the tattoo, a burning reminder on her skin. Should she confide in Ethan, let the alliance bloom into full truth, or hold silence as shield, vanishing into anonymity like her father had? The struggle tore at her personal victory, tasted sweet, but at what cost? As they neared camp, lights flickering on the horizon, she glanced at Ethan, his supportive presence, a temptress to openness. "You don't have to carry it alone," he said softly, sensing her turmoil, his own losses teaching him the value of shared burdens. The team trudged on, enemies' echoes fading, but Sophia's dilemma persisted, a road back, not just physical, but emotional. For those who've journeyed life's long paths, it evoked compassion, the quiet wars within, where secrets guard the heart, yet connection calls. Camp loomed safety near, but the inner challenge lingered, a pivotal crossroads, where revelation teetered on the edge. In the desert's whisper, hope stirred perhaps truth, like the eagle could finally soar free. Back at camp, the desert winds carried whispers of change, the team's weary steps echoing the profound shift they'd undergone. The cave's victory lingered like a sacred fire. Enemies routed, Marcus handed over to authorities, his betrayal a stark lesson in misplaced trust. Sophia Reed, wounds tended in the medical tent, felt the weight of her revelations, her words, her skills, her tattoo, now symbols of a truth that could no longer hide. Ethan Hale sat by her side, his presence a comforting anchor, the alliance they'd built evolving into something deeper, a bond forged in fire and understanding. The camp buzzed with quiet awe. Teammates who'd once doubted her now shared stories around the fire prejudices, crumbling like sandcastles against the tide. But the road back had stirred Sophia's inner challenge to a boil, reveal Phantom Wing fully, or let silence guard its fragile existence. The final twist unfolded in the dim glow of command quarters, where a stern commander awaited debrief. As Ethan recounted the events, Sophia's hacks, Snipe's leadership, the officer's face tightened, files shuffling under his hands. Sophia, summoned, despite her injuries, stood tall. Her athletic form, a quiet defiance, golden hair framing eyes that missed nothing. The commander hesitated, then confessed under pressure from Ethan's probing questions. Phantom Wing had been hidden by the government, buried, to avoid a feminism scandal. It was experimental, he admitted, voice low. Women in elite ops too controversial. Failures publicized to kill it. Quietly, successes erased to dodge backlash. The revelation hit like a sandstorm, not just external enemies defeated, but an internal system rigged against progress, prejudices institutionalized to maintain the status quo. For older Americans, it echoed the suppressed stories of Vietnam women's roles, minimized scandals, swept under to preserve fragile egos, stirring a deep outrage at history's repeated injustices. Sophia confronted him, then her voice steady, breaking silence with purpose. You hid us to avoid scandal. We bled for this proved our worth in shadows you created. Her words cut deep, exposing the system's flaws, bias, and not just from trainers or teammates, but from the top, fearing equality's ripple. The commander faltered documents revealing memos of suppression orders to discredit female candidates. Ethan stood by her, his support amplifying her stand. She's right, we saw it. Strength doesn't wear a gender. The twist misdirected no more. What they'd suspected as personal secrets unveiled a larger conspiracy winning over system prejudices in that tense room. Teammates overhearing rallied petitions, whispered stories, shared, forcing acknowledgement from higher-ups. In her resurrection, Sophia rose anew, not as a ghost, but a beacon. Official recognition came swiftly, a classified commendation. Phantom Wing's veil lifted just enough to inspire reform. Women like her stepping from shadows. Medals whispered reports, amended her metal etched into records. But true victory was personal, overcoming the inner barriers that had nearly silenced her forever. Ethan hugged her again, tears in his eyes. You've changed everything. Yet Sophia chose silence as legacy declining, public fanfare, vanishing into quiet recovery. Her story a whispered legend among those who'd witnessed it. Protect the eagle, she murmured one last time. The tattoo, a eternal vow. She got the recognition but opted for the humble path, her high sin tem lang a gift to future generations. The camp faded as she departed, but her impact endured prejudices, vanquished systems, challenged hearts touched. For elderly souls who've seen eras shift, it was profound resurrection, not in glory, but in quiet strength, where victory over bias heals the deepest wounds. Sophia's choice echoed the unsung heroes of old, leaving a legacy that soared free, inspiring all to protect their own eagles in silence or song. The Afghan dawn broke over the camp like a gentle promise, washing the sands in soft gold and chasing away the night's shadows. The team, weary but transformed, gathered their gear for extraction, the cave's victory, a fresh scar on their souls. Sophia Reed, her wounds stitched and bandaged, moved with a quiet grace, that belied the storm within. The official recognition had come in hushed tones. Commendations filed Phantom Wing's veil, partially lifted prejudices in the system, challenged, and in small ways overcome. Yet as the helicopters thrummed on the horizon, Sophia slipped away, mysteriously vanishing into the desert's embrace, like a ghost returning to whispers. No fanfare, no farewells, only a folded letter left on Ethan's cot, her handwriting steady and deliberate. Ethan unfolded it under the rising sun, his heart heavy with unspoken gratitude. Dear Ethan, it began. Silent sacrifice is true strength. I've protected the eagle long enough. Now it's time for others to soar. Phantom Wing was my battle, but your alliance showed me trust's true power. Carry the story, but let silence guard the rest. Yours in the shadows, Sophia. The words pierced him, a elixir of wisdom, distilled from her journey, overcoming gender prejudices, not with shouts, but with unyielding actions. It was a grand message for society. In a world quick to judge by appearances, true valor blooms in the overlooked, inspiring elderly American female veterans who'd served in Vietnam's echoes, nurses, clerks, spies, whose sacrifices were footnotes, now finding voice in tales like hers. Their quiet resilience, much like Sophia's, reminded generations that strength doesn't demand applause. It simply endures, paving paths for daughters and granddaughters to walk freer. Back home, months later, Ethan sat on his porch in a quiet Virginia town, the same rolling hills where Sophia's flashbacks had rooted her strength. The war's scars faded, but her legacy burned bright. He gathered his grandchildren around their wide eyes, reflecting the stars, as he told the story, not of battles won, but of a woman who shattered silences with deeds. She was like the eagle and the cobra, he said, tracing imaginary ink on his arm, soaring high, striking true all without a word until it mattered most. The open ending lingered. Where had she gone? Back to shadows, perhaps, or forging new paths? But her elixir spread through Ethan's tales, inspiring young minds to question prejudices, to honor the unsung. In silence, we find strength. He quoted her the words, a mantra passed down, echoing her father's wisdom. It was a message that resonated deeply, touching the hearts of those who'd lived long enough to see society's slow turns, overcoming biases that once confined women to edges, now celebrating their central fire. For elderly souls, it evoked compassion. The female veterans who'd mended bodies in muddy fields, decoded messages in dim rooms, their stories rarely told, but profoundly felt. Sophia's disappearance wasn't an end. It was a ripple, her silent sacrifice, fueling waves of change, reminding us that true elixirs heal not just wounds, but worlds. And in reflecting on such tales, I once thought war was just guns and grit. But through stories like this, I realize it's also about the human heart, those nameless sacrifices that make us stronger, binding us across generations. If you've witnessed something similar, a quiet hero whose strength shone in silence, share below, and don't forget to subscribe to explore more silent legacies together. Your stories keep the eagle soaring.